Welcome to another weekly market update with Kristen Mason Coreas, owner of the Homes by Mason team. Today is Thursday, June 4th. My baby, who is 14, graduates from 8th grade tonight. I'll be going there later tonight. So that's what's happening in my world today. And let's talk about what's happening in real estate. That's probably why you came here. So current interest rate, 6.48, which is down a touch, 0.05 from where it was last week, and above what the average is for the year. So the 52-week average is 6.35. So on the higher side there. And compared to where we were last year at the same time, 6.85. Now, in national economic news, you'll see down here, purchase applications are 7% higher than they were a year ago. That makes sense if interest rates were 6.85 a year ago. However, what doesn't make a ton of sense is that applications declined 3% for the week when interest rates actually went down. I'm going to tell you overall, I always review this data before coming on here, and frankly, it's kind of a mixed bag of information. And so that's what you'll see up here as well. Employment was stable, but inflation does continue to rise across the country. And then more job data here is mixed. Job openings climbed to their highest level in nearly 2 years. However, companies are slowing down on their hiring. And then the next data point is that private companies added 122,000 workers in May, more than they did in April. So that's, mixed news there in regards to the labor market. Also, I think this is different than what we were hearing last week. I think we were hearing that builder sentiment was down, although starts were up. So again, mixed messaging there. Here we see that residential construction spending rose a touch, 0.8% in April, and supposedly driven by gains in construction on single family homes and home improvement projects. So that is surprising. And what is a new data point that we haven't seen here, my big red arrow, is that nearly 6% of home listings were pulled from the market in April, which is the highest level since the early days of the pandemic. So that is definitely a different data point and definitely a sign that perhaps there is a shift in the market. The Mid-Atlantic region, which includes Virginia, D.C., Maryland, Pennsylvania, West Virginia, Delaware, and New Jersey, for the week ending May 31st. So that week will include the Monday of Memorial Day weekend, but otherwise not the entire Memorial Day weekend. Showings did dip across most of the subregions, 5.2% down from the same week in 2025, which is the first overall decrease in showings for 7 weeks. So we do usually see less activity in the summers. So this is a sign that we're kind of perhaps past the peak. But then I said I thought we were past the peak, and then I didn't think we were. So I am not feeling like there are consistent trends. I feel like the data is doing this on us. So showings are lower, even though inventory is climbing. So because we have more inventory, you would actually expect to see more showings to match that level of inventory. And we're not seeing that here. New contracts also a mixed bag. So 3.2% overall increase from the same week last year. However, by sub-region, the data is varied. And new listings are healthier than last year, so that may contribute to more inventory overall, especially if we continue to see less showings. So then there has been, this is one trend that has been relatively consistent, is new listings increasing 4.4%. That's for the week. And year over year, decreases in new listings for the Washington metro area. So a reminder to always look at and pay attention to the local data, that the bigger picture does not always apply to what's happening in our local area. So speaking of, we'll look at the DC metro area, and then we'll dive deeper into the hyper local area. So in the DC metro area, a mixed bag here. Showings down a big number, 7.2% from last year, but up 2.7% from last week. The opposite of what I think we saw in the earlier slide, that showings were down week over week, but were they up year over year? Is that what it was? No, they were down week over week. But also here down a big number from last year. Purchase contracts basically flat, up just a touch compared to last year, but down another big number, 14.4% down week over week, which is surprising because the last week was the weekend of Memorial Day. So to have that many fewer contracts. Now, I guess last week, if I recall, we did have more contracts last week than I expected during Memorial Day weekend. So maybe this is a reflection of that. But that is so interesting to see a decrease of 14.4% compared to the week that included Memorial Day. Why were there so many less contracts this past week? I don't know. And interest rates have come down. So I don't get that aside from just the summer starting. It is the time of year right now for graduations and proms and things like that. Like my daughter graduating tonight. And so that may feed into the data. And that's why we look at year over year, because, at the same time last year, presumably similar things were happening, graduations and proms and things like that. So year over year, contracts relatively even, but maybe this is just a busy week for people with school stuff. Time to contract shorter by 3 days year over year, longer by 3 days week over week for a median of 27 days. New listings down both year over year and week over week. And here, new listings were trending upwards, except for the Washington metro area. So median list price down. That's really, largely what we always want to get to. Why do we look at the data? Because we want to know what's happening with prices, right? We want to know what the value of your home is. We want to know what you can sell your home for, what you can buy a home for. So really, I'm always really trying to get at what's going to happen with prices. And I do have a slide at the end to talk about that in terms of the projection from the experts out there. So down 3.7% compared to a year ago. That's a relatively big number, especially considering we don't usually see prices down year over year. That's not what I have experienced in my 16 years. Generally, prices are up year over year consistently. We are up week over week, 4.3, but this year over year number does give me some concern. Active listings up by 9% year over year and up 2.4% week over week. And the hyperlocal data for Arlington, Alexandria, Fairfax, and Falls Church, where we do most of our business at Kristen Mason. So new listings and new under contracts are up, and this is the raw data. So more than last week, which that was the full Memorial Day weekend, right? Last week. So that makes sense. And up significantly. I think it was about 80% more in supply than last week, and a healthy percentage increase in contracts week over week. So compared to year over year, inventory is up and contracts relatively flat year over year. The demand to supply ratio back to 75%, which is where we have been most of the year. So, and compared to the same time last year, that's 82.45% last year. So not too far off. And days on market just increased by 1 day, 21 average days on market in our hyperlocal area. So what's going to happen to prices? That's, again, really what we're trying to get at, I think, most of the time. What I know I'm often trying to get at is what's going to happen to prices. What's the bottom line? There's mixed messaging out there. There's things going up, things going down. So this is from one of the emails. I get lots of emails. I look at lots of data all of the time. So I apologize. I don't know exactly where I got this from, but it was probably from a lender email that I received. So while home price growth has moderated and as you saw in some cases gone down, even modest gains can add up over time. So the forecasts from experts out there, 150 economists, real estate experts and market strategists do project a cumulative home price growth of 14% over the next 5 years. On average, homes grow 4% year over year. So normally that would have been 20%, right? 4 times 5 equals 20%. So slightly less than what we may have been experiencing historically. However, overall home price growth does happen. And people who know more than me and are smarter than me are projecting that. So for perspective, a $500,000 home could gain roughly $70,000 in value over the next 5 years, underscoring the long-term wealth building opportunity of home ownership. So I hear in my industry people say, don't wait to buy real estate and wait. So for those of you who are buyers out there debating whether you should buy now or not, those of us often who have bought homes and look back at what we paid when we paid it, do often feel good about the fact that we bought it, because we have seen price appreciation, those of us who have owned homes for a long time. So it always is hard to pull the trigger and take that first step and dive in. That can be hard, but frankly, there's almost never the right time to do anything, right? If you are waiting for the perfect moment to do something, that perfect moment never comes. So overall, real estate does improve over time. And if you're thinking about buying, find a good realtor. We'd be happy to be that good realtor to help you and get something within your means and watch it grow. So that is the weekly market update from Homes by Mason. And anytime you want to talk about what's happening in the data and how that may impact you and your decisions, please reach out. You can get me at 571-210-1866. I answer the phone whenever I'm available. Or if not, then send me a text message. That's the second best way to get me. You can also email me at kristen@homesbymason.com or check out the website for resources at www.homesbymason.com. Thanks for watching and have a great weekend.